The officer's hand slammed against the car roof. "I said step out, now!" Evelyn Carter didn't flinch. She'd heard worse commands in Kandahar while mortar rounds screamed overhead. But this wasn't a combat zone. This was a Tuesday afternoon in suburban Colorado, outside a low-income apartment complex, where she'd just dropped off insulin supplies to a diabetic college student who couldn't afford her prescription refill. "I'm a nurse," she said again, slower this time, hands visible on the steering wheel. "I work at Redwood General. I was returning medical supplies to someone who needed—" "Save it." Officer Ryan Cole's eyes swept over her like she was already guilty. "Pop the trunk." Two more patrol cars pulled up, lights flashing. A small crowd gathered on the sidewalk, phones rising. Evelyn's heartbeat stayed steady, 72 beats per minute, same as always, but something cold settled in her chest. She recognized this pattern. The assumptions. The theater of authority. The need to humiliate before asking questions. What Officer Cole didn't know, the woman he was about to search had spent 18 months in forward operating bases where hesitation killed people, where she'd pulled shrapnel from soldiers while insurgents fired through canvas walls, where she'd been decorated twice for actions she never talked about. He thought he had control. He was already wrong. "Before we go further, I need you to do something for me. Stay with this story until the very end. Comment below with the city you're watching from so I can see how far this has traveled. Hit that like button if you want to see how this plays out, because what happens next, nobody saw coming." The apartment complex sat off Highway 36, a collection of beige buildings with rusted railings and parking spaces marked in faded yellow paint. Evelyn had been there 12 minutes, just long enough to hand Maya Reeves, a 21-year-old nursing student working 2 jobs to stay enrolled, a small cooler containing 3 vials of insulin and a box of syringes. Maya's insurance had lapsed. The pharmacy wanted $400 she didn't have. Evelyn had seen the same desperation in field hospitals overseas, where supplies meant survival and bureaucracy meant death. She'd pulled into the lot at 3:47 p.m., parked near the dumpsters where her sedan wouldn't block traffic, and walked to Building C. Maya met her at the door, eyes red, hands shaking. The exchange took 90 seconds. A hug. A whispered thank you. Evelyn was back in her car by 3:51 p.m. Keys in the ignition, seatbelt clicked. That's when the first patrol car rolled up behind her, lights off but engine idling. She didn't panic. Panic was for people who hadn't trained in chaos. She checked her mirrors, noted the officer stepping out, mid-30s, buzz cut, shoulders back like he was walking into a fight, and lowered her window before he reached her door. "Afternoon," she said evenly. Officer Cole didn't return the greeting. "License and registration." She handed them over without commentary. He studied the license longer than necessary, eyes flicking between her face and the photo. Evelyn Carter, age 34, brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. No makeup, scrubs under a fleece jacket because the hospital AC ran cold. "What are you doing here?" Cole's tone wasn't curious, it was accusatory. "Dropping off medical supplies to a student. She's diabetic, couldn't afford her refill." "Medical supplies." He repeated it like she'd said something suspicious. "You a doctor?" "Nurse. Redwood General, ICU." "Uh-huh." He leaned down, scanning the interior of her car. "Step out of the vehicle." Evelyn's hands tightened on the wheel, just slightly. "Is there a problem, officer?" "I'm not asking twice." She unbuckled slowly, opened the door, and stepped onto the asphalt. The afternoon sun was bright, but the air carried the first bite of autumn. A few residents had drifted onto their balconies, watching. Cole gestured toward the front of the car. "Hands on the hood." "Officer, I haven't done anything." "Hands, hood, now." She complied. The metal was warm under her palms. Cole moved behind her, and she felt the invasive sweep of a pat-down. Impersonal, mechanical, humiliating. Her jaw tightened, but she kept her breathing controlled. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. The same rhythm she'd used in triage tents when the wounded kept coming and the supplies ran out. "What's in the trunk?" Cole asked. "Medical bag, hospital scrubs, reusable grocery bags." "Pop it." She reached through the open driver's door and pulled the trunk release. Cole circled to the back, rifling through her belongings like he was searching for contraband. He unzipped her medical bag, pulled out bandages, a stethoscope, a blood pressure cuff, tossed them back in without care. This student you mentioned, what's her name? Maya Reeves. She lives in Building C, apartment 2B. You always make house calls for strangers? She's not a stranger. She's a patient who needed help. Cole's eyes narrowed. Patients go to hospitals, not parking lots. She couldn't afford the pharmacy copay. I brought her what she needed. That legal? Evelyn's patience, usually unshakable, began to fray at the edges. It's called compassion. Maybe you've heard of it. The words came out sharper than she intended. Cole's expression hardened. You got a smart mouth for someone in your position. And what position is that? Before he could answer, a second patrol car pulled up, then a third. Cole waved them over like he'd just cornered a fugitive. Two more officers emerged, one older, heavyset, with a name tag reading Morris, and a younger woman, Santos, who looked uncomfortable the moment she saw Evelyn standing against the car. What's the situation? Morris asked. Suspicious activity, Cole said. She claims she was dropping off medical supplies, but the story doesn't add up. Santos glanced at the trunk, at the medical bag clearly visible. What doesn't add up? Cole ignored her. Check the registration, run her plates. Morris walked back to his vehicle. Santos stayed, arms crossed, eyes moving between Evelyn and Cole like she was trying to piece together what she'd missed. Ma'am, do you consent to a vehicle search? Santos asked. I already searched it, Cole cut in. I'm asking her, Ryan. Evelyn met Santos's gaze. There was something different there. Not hostility, just procedure. You can search it. I have nothing to hide. Santos nodded and began a second sweep of the trunk, more methodical than Cole's. She examined the medical bag, the grocery bags, a reusable water bottle, a yoga mat Evelyn hadn't used in 3 months. Nothing remotely illegal. She's clean, Santos said quietly. Cole's jaw worked. Check the glove compartment. Already did. Registration, insurance, owner's manual, that's it. The crowd on the balconies had grown. Phones were out now, recording. Evelyn could see the red recording dots, the way people leaned over railings for better angles. Part of her understood the instinct. Injustice made good content. But another part, the part that had operated in secrecy for years, where anonymity meant safety, hated the exposure. Morris returned holding a printout. No warrants, no priors. Vehicles registered to her. Everything checks out. Cole snatched the paper, scanned it like he was searching for a mistake. What about the student? We verify her story? I'll go talk to her, Santos offered. No, I'll do it. Cole started toward Building C. Evelyn's voice cut through the parking lot. She's diabetic. If you scare her, her blood sugar could spike. Let me call her first. Cole stopped mid-stride, turned slowly. You don't give me orders. I'm not giving orders. I'm telling you how to avoid a medical emergency. Stay, here. He bit off each word, then continued toward the building. Santos shifted closer to Evelyn, lowering her voice. You really a nurse? ICU, 7 years. He's having a bad day. Don't take it personal. Evelyn almost laughed. A bad day doesn't excuse harassment. Santos didn't argue. She just glanced at Cole's retreating back, then at the phone still recording, and something like resignation crossed her face. Maya answered her door on the second knock, clearly startled by the uniform. Evelyn couldn't hear the conversation from the parking lot, but she saw Maya's confusion, her repeated glances toward Evelyn, the way she held up her insulin vials like evidence. Cole took photos of them with his phone, wrote something in a notepad, asked more questions. Maya's hand started shaking again. When Cole finally returned, his expression was tighter than before. She confirmed your story, he said, like it annoyed him. I know, but I still don't like it. You don't have to like it. You just have to let me go. Morris stepped forward, clearly trying to de-escalate. Ryan, she's clear. Let's wrap this up. But Cole wasn't finished. How often do you do this? Drop off supplies? When someone needs help. You keep records? Receipts? I'm not running a business. I'm helping people. Sounds like distribution to me. Santos's eyes widened. Ryan, unlicensed distribution of medical supplies could be a felony. Evelyn's composure cracked, just slightly. You're reaching. Am I? Cole stepped closer, invading her space. Because from where I'm standing, you're operating outside normal channels, meeting people in parking lots, handing off controlled substances. Insulin isn't a controlled substance. Syringes are paraphernalia. They're medical equipment, not when you're distributing them without oversight. The absurdity of it hit her like a wave. She'd treated gunshot wounds in Helmand province. She'd held pressure on a femoral artery for 40 minutes while waiting for a medevac that almost didn't come. She'd been awarded the Army Commendation Medal for actions she'd never spoken about publicly. And now she was being lectured about insulin syringes by a cop who couldn't admit he was wrong. Officer Cole. Her voice dropped, controlled but edged with steel. I have broken no laws. I have committed no crimes. You've searched my vehicle, verified my identity, confirmed my story with the person I helped. You have no legal grounds to detain me further. I'll decide what grounds I have. No. She straightened, meeting his eyes without blinking. You won't. The standoff stretched. Morris looked like he wanted to intervene, but didn't know how. Santos glanced at the recording phones again, clearly calculating the department's liability. And Cole looked like a man who'd backed himself into a corner and didn't know how to get out without losing face. Then a voice cut through the tension. You really don't know who she is, do you? Everyone turned. An older man stood at the edge of the crowd, maybe 65, wearing a faded Marines t-shirt and leaning on a cane. His face was weathered, scarred along one cheek, and his eyes held the particular weariness of someone who'd seen authority abused before. Cole's hand drifted toward his belt. Sir, step back. The man didn't move. Name's Dennis Keller. I live in Building A. And I know her. This doesn't concern you. It does when you're harassing a decorated combat medic in my parking lot. The words landed like a flashbang. Cole blinked. What? Dennis limped closer, each step deliberate. Evelyn Carter, former Army specialist, 18 months deployed in Afghanistan, saved my nephew's life when his convoy hit an IED outside Kandahar, pulled him out of a burning vehicle while taking fire. You want to call that suspicious activity, officer? Evelyn's breath caught. She hadn't seen Dennis in 4 years, not since the ceremony at Fort Carson, where they'd both attended a memorial service for soldiers who hadn't made it home. She'd never told anyone at Redwood General about her service. It wasn't something she advertised. The medals stayed in a box in her closet. The memories stayed locked down. Santos stared at her. Your army? Was. Evelyn's voice was quiet. I don't talk about it. Morris looked at Cole, who'd gone very still. Ryan, maybe we should... Doesn't matter what she used to be, Cole interrupted, but his conviction was slipping. I'm doing my job. Dennis laughed, sharp and bitter. Your job? Kid, your job is to protect people, not humiliate them because you had a bad shift. I don't need a lecture from a civilian. I did 22 years in the Corps. Try again. The crowd murmured. More phones appeared. Evelyn could see the narrative forming in real time. Cop versus veteran, authority versus service, power versus principle. She hated it. She hadn't wanted this. All she'd wanted was to help a student who couldn't afford insulin. Santos touched Cole's arm. Ryan, let her go. He jerked away. I'm not... Let her go. For a long moment, Cole stood frozen, pride and reality warring on his face. Then he exhaled hard through his nose, stepped back, and waved dismissively toward Evelyn's car. You're free to leave. Evelyn didn't move immediately. She wanted to say something cutting, something that would make him understand how badly he'd miscalculated. But she'd learned long ago that silence could be louder than words. So she walked to her car, slid into the driver's seat, and started the engine. As she pulled away, she saw Dennis in her rearview mirror, still standing there, arms crossed. Their eyes met for half a second. He nodded once. She nodded back. But as she turned onto Highway 36, hands steady on the wheel, heartbeat still 72 beats per minute, she knew this wasn't over. Because every second of that encounter, the search, the accusations, the violation, had been recorded. By body cameras. By phones. By witnesses who knew injustice when they saw it. Officer Ryan Cole thought he'd won by letting her go. He'd just made the worst mistake of his career. Evelyn drove straight to Redwood General, parked in the employee lot, and sat in silence for 3 full minutes. Her hands didn't shake. Her breathing stayed controlled. But something had shifted inside her. A cold, clinical clarity she recognized from the battlefield. The kind that came when you realized the situation wasn't going to resolve itself quietly. She pulled out her phone and opened her contacts. Scrolled past colleagues, family, friends. Stopped on a name she hadn't called in 6 months. Captain Alicia Mendez, JAG Corps. They'd served together in Afghanistan. Mendez had been legal counsel for their unit, a sharp-minded advocate who didn't lose cases. She'd left active duty 2 years ago and now worked in federal civil rights law, specializing in cases involving veterans and law enforcement misconduct. Evelyn hesitated, thumb hovering over the call button. Part of her wanted to let it go. Move on. Forget the whole humiliating encounter. But another part, the part that had watched too many injustices go unchallenged, knew that silence only protected the people who abused power. She pressed call. Mendez answered on the second ring. Carter? That you? Yeah, it's me. Been a while. You okay? I need legal advice. There was a pause, then Mendez's voice sharpened. What happened? Evelyn told her everything. The stop, the search, the accusations, the crowd, the recordings. She kept her tone factual, emotionless, the way she'd delivered field reports under fire. When she finished, Mendez was quiet for several seconds. You still at the scene? Mendez finally asked. No, I'm at work. Good. Don't go back. Don't talk to anyone from that department without representation, and send me everything. Dash cam footage if you have it, names, badge numbers, locations, witnesses, everything. I don't have dash cam footage, but there were at least a dozen people recording. Even better, social media moves faster than internal investigations. If that footage goes public before they can bury it, they'll have no choice but to act. Evelyn rubbed her temple. I didn't want this to become a spectacle. It already is. The question is whether you control the narrative or let them spin it. Mendez's voice softened slightly. Look, I know you hate the spotlight, but if you walk away from this, he'll do it to someone else. Someone without your training. Someone who can't stay calm under pressure. And next time, it might end worse. She was right. Evelyn knew it. She'd seen enough battlefield triage to understand that small wounds, left untreated, turned fatal. What do I do? She asked. File a formal complaint. I'll draft it tonight. We'll cite unlawful detention, Fourth Amendment violations, potential discrimination. And if any of that body cam footage shows him escalating without cause, we'll have grounds for a federal civil rights lawsuit. This is going to get ugly. It's already ugly. We're just making sure the right people pay for it. After the call ended, Evelyn sat in her car for another minute, staring at the hospital entrance. Her shift started in 20 minutes. She had patients waiting, a trauma case in Bay 3, post-op monitoring in Room 12, the ordinary, relentless work of keeping people alive. She grabbed her bag and walked inside. By the time Evelyn finished her shift at 11:47 p.m., the video had gone viral. She didn't know until she checked her phone in the locker room and saw 17 missed calls, 43 text messages, and her name trending on Twitter. Someone had posted the footage, all 8 minutes of it, from the initial stop to Dennis's intervention, with the caption, "Decorated Army combat medic harassed by cop for helping diabetic student. This is what Protect and Serve looks like now." It had been retweeted 14,000 times. Evelyn's stomach dropped. She opened the video, watched herself standing calmly against her car while Cole rifled through her trunk, heard her own voice explaining over and over that she was a nurse, saw the moment Dennis stepped forward and revealed her service record. The comments section was a war zone, half the country calling for Cole's badge, the other half defending him, a few trolls claiming the whole thing was staged. Her phone buzzed, a text from Mendez. Saw the video? This changes everything. Call me when you can. Another text from a number she didn't recognize. Ms. Carter, this is Rebecca Huang from Channel 9 News. We'd love to interview you about today's incident. Please call at your earliest convenience. 3 more media requests followed, then a message from the hospital's PR department asking her to refrain from speaking to press until they could assess the situation. Evelyn turned off her phone. She drove home in silence, parked in her driveway, and sat in the dark for a long time. The house was small, a rental on the north side of Boulder, with a view of the Flatirons she rarely had time to appreciate. Inside it was neat and impersonal. Furniture from IKEA, walls mostly bare, nothing that screamed home. She'd never been good at settling in. The Army had taught her to travel light, and the habit had stuck. She poured herself a glass of water, sat on the couch, and finally turned her phone back on. 62 notifications. She ignored most of them, but one email caught her attention. The sender was listed as Office of the Inspector General, U.S. Department of Defense. Her pulse kicked up. She opened it. Subject: Request for information. Incident report, October 17, 2024. Ms. Carter, we have been made aware of an incident involving you and local law enforcement on October 17, 2024. As a former service member currently contracted under federal medical response protocols, your case has been flagged for review. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience to provide a formal statement. Respectfully, Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Shaw, Inspector General's Office. Evelyn read it twice, then a third time. She hadn't been on active duty in 6 years. But after leaving the Army, she'd taken a contract position with FEMA's National Disaster Medical System, a federal program that deployed civilian medical personnel during emergencies. It was part-time, mostly administrative, something she did to stay connected to emergency response work without committing to full-time military service. She hadn't realized it made her a federal contractor, which meant Cole hadn't just harassed a nurse. He'd harassed someone working under federal authority. The implications hit her all at once. This wasn't just a local complaint anymore. This was going to involve federal investigators, military liaisons, possibly even congressional oversight if the story got big enough. She texted Mendez. Just got an email from the DoD Inspector General. The response came in seconds. Holy shit, forward it to me. Now. Evelyn did. Then she set her phone down, leaned back, and closed her eyes. She tried to do something simple, something kind. And now she was at the center of a federal investigation, a media firestorm, and a legal battle she'd never wanted. But as she sat there in the quiet, another thought surfaced, one that had been drilled into her during basic training, repeated in every after-action review, embedded in the muscle memory of her service. When someone abuses power, you don't back down. You document. You report. You make sure it never happens again. Officer Ryan Cole had made a choice today. He'd chosen humiliation over professionalism, ego over evidence, power over principle. Now he was going to learn what happened when you cornered someone who'd been trained to fight back, not with fists, with precision. The next morning, Evelyn woke to find her front lawn occupied by 3 news vans. She stood at her bedroom window, coffee in hand, watching reporters set up cameras and check microphones. A small crowd of neighbors had gathered on the sidewalk, pointing and whispering. Someone knocked on her door, sharp, insistent. She didn't answer. Instead, she called Mendez. "They're outside my house," Evelyn said flatly. "I know. I've been fielding calls since 6 a.m. Every major outlet wants a statement. What do I say? Nothing. Not yet. Let them chase the story. Let the department scramble. We file the complaint today, and then we wait for them to make the next mistake. And if they don't, they will. Guys like Cole always do." Evelyn hung up and checked her email. Another message from Lieutenant Colonel Shaw requesting a video call at 2 p.m. A follow-up from the hospital's legal team asking her to attend a meeting that afternoon. And buried in the spam folder, an anonymous message with no subject line. "You don't know what you're starting. Drop it." She stared at the words, then deleted the email without responding. Threats didn't scare her. She'd been threatened by people with actual weapons. This was just noise. At 1:55 p.m., she logged into the video call with Lieutenant Colonel Shaw. He appeared on screen. Late 50s, graying hair, uniform crisp, expression unreadable. "Ms. Carter, thank you for joining me." "Sir, I'll be direct. Your case has been escalated due to your status as a federal medical contractor. That changes the legal landscape significantly. We're coordinating with local authorities, but I need your account of the incident. Start from the beginning." She walked him through it again, same facts, same timeline. Shaw took notes, asked clarifying questions, never interrupted. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair. "You handled yourself well. I've had practice. I read your service record. Kandahar, 2019. You pulled a wounded soldier out of a vehicle under fire, treated him on site for 20 minutes until evac arrived, saved his life. Evelyn's throat tightened. I was doing my job. So was Officer Cole. The difference is you did yours correctly. Shaw's expression hardened. I'm recommending a full federal review. If the body cam footage supports your account, and based on the civilian recordings, I believe it will, this will move quickly. What happens to him? That's not your concern. Your concern is making sure this doesn't happen to the next person. The call ended at 2:34 p.m. Evelyn sat in silence, staring at the blank screen. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Miss Carter? The voice was male, older, cautious. This is Chief Daniels, Boulder County Sheriff's Department. Her pulse spiked. Yes? I'd like to speak with you in person, privately. Would you be available tomorrow morning? About what? There was a pause. About Officer Cole. And what happens next? Evelyn met Chief Daniels at a coffee shop 15 miles outside Boulder, far enough from the media circus that had taken root outside her house. He'd suggested the location, neutral ground, he'd called it, and she'd agreed because meeting at the department felt like walking into a trap. He was already seated when she arrived, nursing a black coffee at a corner table. Late 50s, gray beard trimmed close, eyes that had seen too many bad situations to pretend this one wasn't. He stood when she approached, offered his hand. Miss Carter, thank you for coming. She shook it briefly. You said this was about Officer Cole. It is. Sit, please. She sat across from him, hands folded on the table. Daniels took a long breath, like he was choosing his words carefully. I've been in law enforcement for 32 years, he began. I've seen good cops make bad calls. I've seen bad cops hide behind badges, and I've seen situations get out of control because nobody had the guts to step in early. He paused. This is one of those situations. Evelyn didn't respond, just waited. Officer Cole has been with our department for 6 years. Clean record, mostly. A few complaints, but nothing that stuck. Nothing we could act on. He met her eyes. Until now. So what changed? You did. Daniels leaned forward slightly. The video went viral. The DOD got involved. Suddenly we can't sweep this under the rug even if we wanted to, which, for the record, I don't. Then why are we here? Because I need to know what you want. The question caught her off guard. What I want? Cole's going to be suspended, probably terminated. There'll be an internal investigation, a federal review, maybe a lawsuit. All of that's already in motion. But I'm asking you, personally, what outcome you're looking for. Evelyn studied him. This wasn't protocol. This was a man trying to contain damage before it burned down his entire department. I want him held accountable, she said evenly, not just moved to another precinct or given a desk job, actually accountable. He will be. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I'll fight for it. Daniel's voice dropped. Look, I know how this works. Officer screws up, department circles the wagons, victim gets dragged through the mud. I'm not doing that here. Cole crossed a line, a big one. And if we don't address it now, publicly and completely, we lose whatever credibility we have left. So this is about your reputation. It's about doing the right thing before we're forced to. Evelyn sat back, arms crossed. You want me to make this easier for you? Give a statement saying the department's cooperating, that justice is being served. Make it look like you're the good guys. Daniels grimaced. I want you to know that not everyone in uniform is like Cole, and that some of us are willing to stand with you, not against you. She believed him, or wanted to. But trust was something she rationed carefully these days. I'll consider it, she said, after I see what the investigation actually finds. Fair enough? He slid a business card across the table. My direct line. If you need anything, you call me. Not the front desk, not the PR team, me. She took the card, stood, and left without another word. When she got back to her car, her phone was ringing. Mendez. Where are you? Mendez asked immediately. Just finished coffee with the chief. Daniels? What did he want? To get ahead of the story. He's scared. Good. He should be. There was a rustling sound, papers shuffling. Listen, I just got off the phone with the Inspector General's office. They're expediting the review. Body cam footage is being pulled today. We should have it by end of week. That fast? Federal oversight moves faster than local bureaucracy, especially when there's public pressure. Mendez hesitated. There's something else. The hospital called me. Evelyn's grip tightened on the steering wheel. What did they say? They want you to take paid leave, just until this blows over. Absolutely not. Evelyn, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm not hiding like I'm guilty. It's not about guilt. It's about optics. They're worried the media attention will disrupt patient care. Then they should issue a statement supporting me instead of sidelining me. Mendez sighed. I told them the same thing, but they're spooked. And legally, they can put you on leave if they think your presence creates a liability. Let them try. She hung up and drove straight to Redwood General. The hospital's administrative offices were on the 3rd floor, past the surgical wing, and through a set of glass doors marked Executive Staff Only. Evelyn had been there once before, during her initial hiring interview. The memory felt distant now, like it belonged to someone else's life. The receptionist looked up, startled. Ms. Carter, do you have an appointment? No, but I need to speak with Director Parsons. He's in a meeting. Then get him out of it. The receptionist's eyes widened, but she picked up the phone. 30 seconds later, Director Marcus Parsons emerged from a conference room, looking exactly as uncomfortable as Evelyn expected. Mid-40s, expensive suit, the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. Evelyn, this is unexpected. I heard you're putting me on leave. His smile tightened. Let's talk in my office. She followed him into a space that smelled like leather and air freshener. He closed the door, gestured to a chair. She remained standing. This isn't personal, Parsons began. It's a precautionary measure. The media attention has been overwhelming, distracting, embarrassing for the hospital. All of the above. He sat behind his desk, folding his hands. We support you, Evelyn, completely. But right now, your presence here is creating complications. Complications, she repeated flatly. I was harassed by a cop for helping a patient. The hospital's response is to punish me for it? It's not punishment. It's paid leave. You'll still receive your full salary. I don't care about the salary. I care about my patients. Your patients will be reassigned, temporarily. Evelyn's jaw tightened. You're making me a liability because it's easier than standing up for me. Parsons's expression hardened. We have a responsibility to this institution, to every patient, every staff member. If the media camps out in our ICU, if families start complaining, if our reputation takes a hit, your reputation. She stepped closer to the desk. That's what this is about, not patient care, not doing the right thing, just protecting the brand. That's not fair. Fair? She laughed, sharp and bitter. Officer Cole searched my car in front of a crowd because he decided I looked suspicious. He ignored every piece of evidence that proved I was telling the truth. He humiliated me because he could. And now my own employer is sidelining me for the same reason, because it's convenient. Parsons stood, trying to reclaim authority. You're upset, I understand, but this decision is final. Then I'll see you in court. She turned and walked out before he could respond. By the time she reached the parking lot, her hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage, the kind that had no outlet, no target, just burned hot and useless in her chest. She sat in her car, gripping the steering wheel, forcing her breathing to slow. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw what happened. You deserve better. Keep fighting. Then another. Thank you for standing up. My daughter's a nurse too. This matters. Then a third, fourth, fifth. Messages from strangers who'd seen the video, who believed her, who wanted her to know she wasn't alone. She read every one. And then she called Mendez back. File the lawsuit, Evelyn said, against Cole, against the department, and against the hospital. All of them. There was a brief silence. Then Mendez's voice, steady and sure. Consider it done. Over the next 3 days, the story metastasized. Major news outlets picked it up. Legal analysts debated Fourth Amendment protections on cable news. Veterans advocacy groups issued statements of support. A GoFundMe appeared, organized by someone Evelyn had never met, to help cover legal costs. It raised $40,000 in 18 hours. Cole was officially suspended pending investigation. The body cam footage was released to federal authorities but kept from the public, which only fueled speculation. Protests formed outside the Boulder County Sheriff's Department, small at first, a dozen people with handmade signs, then growing to hundreds. Someone projected the viral video onto the side of the building at night. Evelyn stayed home, away from cameras, away from questions. She read case files Mendez sent over, practiced her statement for the federal deposition, and tried not to think about the patients she wasn't treating. On the fourth day, her phone rang at 6:23 a.m. She didn't recognize the number, but something about the area code, 703 Northern Virginia, made her answer. "Ms. Carter?" The voice was crisp, professional, female. "This is Colonel Janet Rivera, U.S. Army Medical Command. Do you have a moment?" Evelyn sat up straighter. "Yes, ma'am. I'll be brief. Your name came across my desk in relation to the incident in Colorado. I reviewed your service record. Impressive work in Kandahar. The Army Commendation Medal doesn't get handed out lightly." "Thank you, ma'am. I'm calling because we have a situation. A federal disaster response is being activated. Major flooding in the Carolinas, multiple counties, infrastructure collapsed. FEMA's deploying medical teams under the National Disaster Medical System. Your contract makes you eligible for deployment." Evelyn's pulse kicked up. "When?" "Wheels up in 48 hours, 2-week rotation, maybe longer depending on conditions. I know your current situation is complicated, but we need experienced field medics, people who can operate under pressure." Rivera paused. "Are you available?" It was a lifeline, a way out of the media storm, the lawsuits, the suffocating attention, a way to do what she was actually trained for. "I'm available," Evelyn said. "Good. I'll have the logistics team send you deployment details within the hour. And Ms. Carter?" "Yes?" "Whatever's happening in Colorado, we're watching. You have support at levels you don't even know about yet." The call ended. Evelyn sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone. Then she texted Mendez. "I'm deploying. 2 weeks, maybe more. Federal disaster response." The reply came fast. "Perfect timing. Let them stew while you're gone. I'll handle everything here." 41 hours later, Evelyn was on a military transport headed to North Carolina. The flooding was worse than the news had reported. Entire towns submerged, roads washed out, power grids down. The mobile field hospital was set up in a high school gymnasium in a town called Mercer Falls, population 12,000, now crammed with twice that many evacuees. Evelyn hit the ground running, triage tents, supply coordination, rotating shifts that blurred into each other. She treated hypothermia, infections, lacerations from debris. She calmed panicked parents whose children had been separated during evacuations. She worked alongside Army medics half her age who treated her like a legend once they learned about Kandahar. It felt like coming home. On day 6, she was stitching up a laceration on an elderly man's forearm when one of the younger medics, a kid named Torres, approached her between patients. "Ma'am, there's someone here asking for you." Evelyn didn't look up from the suture. "Tell them I'm busy." "It's a reporter." Her hands stilled. "How did they find me here?" "No idea, but she's persistent, says it's important." Evelyn tied off the stitch, cleaned the wound, bandaged it carefully. Then she stripped off her gloves and followed Torres outside. The reporter was young, maybe late 20s, standing near the perimeter fence with a camera operator. She spotted Evelyn and started forward, microphone ready. "Ms. Carter, I'm Ashley Brennan from CNN. Can I ask you a few questions about—" "No, just a few minutes. People want to hear your side, but I'm working. People here need medical care, not sound bites." Brennan stepped closer, lowering the microphone slightly. "I'm not here to ambush you. I'm here because what happened to you matters. And because Officer Cole just gave an interview." Evelyn stopped. "What?" "This morning. Exclusive sit-down with a local station. He claims you were hostile from the start, that he followed procedure, that the video doesn't show the full context." Brennan's expression was serious, no trace of the usual media hunger. "He's controlling the narrative, and if you don't respond, his version becomes the truth." Evelyn's chest tightened. She'd known this was coming, the counterattack, the spin, the attempt to discredit her, but hearing it confirmed still hit like a punch. What did he say exactly? That you were evasive, that your story didn't add up, that he had reasonable suspicion to detain you. Brennan hesitated. "He also said you pulled the veteran card to avoid accountability." The words landed like acid. Evelyn felt her composure crack, just slightly, heat rising in her face. "I didn't pull anything," she said quietly. "I answered every question. I complied with every order, and I never mentioned my service, someone else did. I know, that's why I'm here, to give you a chance to set the record straight." Evelyn looked past her, at the rows of tents, the evacuees wrapped in Red Cross blankets, the medics moving between patients with the controlled urgency of people who couldn't afford mistakes. This was what mattered. Not cameras, not narratives, not public opinion. But Mendez's voice echoed in her head. "If you don't control the story, someone else will." 5 minutes, Evelyn said. "No ambush questions. And we do it here, so people can see what I'm actually doing instead of hiding." Brennan nodded. "Deal." They set up near the triage tent. Evelyn stood in her scrubs, name tag visible, stethoscope around her neck. The camera operator counted down and Brennan began. "Ms. Carter, thank you for speaking with us. Can you walk us through what happened on October 17th? Evelyn kept her voice steady, factual. She described the stop, the search, the repeated explanations that were ignored. She didn't embellish, didn't editorialize, just stated what happened, the way she'd been trained to report field incidents. "Officer Cole claims you were evasive," Brennan said. "How do you respond?" "I wasn't evasive. I was precise. I told him exactly what I was doing, where I'd been, why I was there. He chose not to believe me. He says he followed procedure. Procedure doesn't include searching someone without cause, ignoring evidence, or escalating when there's no threat. If that's his procedure, the procedure is broken." "Do you think this was racially motivated?" Evelyn paused. She'd thought about this question a lot over the past week. Cole was white. She was white. The optics didn't fit the usual narrative. "I don't know what was in his head," she said carefully. "But I know what I saw. A man who decided I was guilty before asking a single question. Whether that was about race, gender, class, or just ego, the result is the same. It was wrong." "What do you want to see happen now?" "I want accountability. Real accountability. Not a slap on the wrist. Not a transfer. Not a quiet resignation. I want Officer Cole to face consequences for abusing his authority, and I want the system that protected him to change so this doesn't happen to someone else." Brennan nodded. "One last question. You're a decorated combat veteran. You saved lives under fire. Why does this matter to you so much?" Evelyn met the camera directly. "Because I didn't serve my country so I could come home and be treated like a criminal for helping someone. I didn't risk my life overseas so a cop could violate my rights in a parking lot. And I didn't learn to fight for what's right just to stay silent when it happens to me." She paused. "This matters because injustice doesn't stop unless people stand up to it, and I'm not backing down." The interview aired that night. By morning, it had been viewed 3 million times. Evelyn didn't watch it. She was too busy treating a 7-year-old with pneumonia, restocking IV supplies, and coordinating with FEMA logistics on medication shortages. But her phone, turned off and buried in her duffel, accumulated messages she wouldn't see for hours. From Mendez, "You crushed it. Cole's attorney is already backpedaling." From Chief Daniels, "Saw the interview. You're making this very hard for me to defend my department. Also, you're right." From an unknown number, "You have more support than you know. Keep pushing." And one more, from a number she almost didn't recognize. Dennis Keller, the Marine vet from the parking lot. "Semper Fi, kid. You're doing us proud." On day 9 of the deployment, Evelyn was rotating off a 12-hour shift when Torres found her again. "Ma'am, you need to see this." He handed her a tablet showing a live news feed. The headline read, "Boulder County Sheriff's Department announces termination of Officer Ryan Cole." Evelyn took the tablet, scanned the article. Cole had been fired effective immediately. The internal investigation, accelerated by federal pressure, had found multiple policy violations, including unlawful detention, improper search procedures, and failure to de-escalate. The department issued a formal apology to Evelyn and announced mandatory retraining for all officers. But that wasn't the part that made her hands shake. Buried in the 3rd paragraph, federal prosecutors are reviewing the case for potential civil rights charges. Criminal charges. Not just a lawsuit, actual criminal prosecution. "Ma'am?" Torres was watching her carefully. "You okay?" She handed back the tablet. "Yeah, I'm good." But she wasn't. Not entirely, because this was bigger than she'd anticipated. Cole wasn't just losing his job. He was facing federal charges that could send him to prison. Part of her felt vindicated. The system had worked, slowly and painfully, but it had worked. Another part, the part that had seen too much justice turn into revenge, wondered where the line was. She pushed the thought aside and got back to work. 2 days later, Evelyn was packing her gear for the flight home when Colonel Rivera appeared at the edge of the tent. She wasn't in uniform, just slacks and a field jacket, but she carried authority like a second skin. "Ms. Carter, walk with me." They moved away from the tents toward the edge of the school's football field. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Rivera stopped near the 50-yard line, hands in her pockets. "You did good work here," she said. "Just doing my job." That's what the best ones always say. Rivera turned to face her. "I'm going to be direct. The Army wants you back." Evelyn blinked. "Ma'am? Active duty. We're expanding medical corps, need experienced combat medics. Your record's spotless, your skills are current, and frankly, we could use someone with your backbone." She paused. "Full reinstatement, bump in rank, choice of assignment. Think about it." It was tempting. The clarity of military structure, the purpose, the distance from civilian complications. But Evelyn had left for a reason. The nightmares, the hypervigilance, the way every loud noise still made her flinch. "I appreciate the offer," she said carefully, "but I think I'm where I need to be." Rivera nodded like she'd expected that answer. "Fair enough, but the offer stands. You change your mind, you call me." She started to walk away, then stopped. "One more thing. The DOD investigation into your case, it's not just about Cole anymore. They're looking into patterns. Other officers, other incidents. You opened a door, Carter. A lot of people are going to walk through it." She left Evelyn standing alone on the football field, watching the sun disappear below the horizon. The flight home was quiet. Evelyn sat in the back of the transport, surrounded by exhausted medics and relief workers, and tried not to think about what came next. The lawsuits, the media, the scrutiny. She landed at Peterson Air Force Base at 11:47 p.m. and drove straight home. The news vans were gone from her lawn. Her house was dark, undisturbed. She unlocked the door, dropped her duffel in the hallway, and stood in the silence. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mendez. "Welcome back. We need to talk. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. My office. Big developments." Evelyn didn't respond. She was too tired. She showered, collapsed into bed, and slept for 10 hours straight, the first full night's rest she'd had in weeks. When she woke, sunlight was streaming through the blinds. Her phone showed dozens of notifications, but one email stood out. From Redwood General Hospital. Subject: Reinstatement Offer. She opened it. "Ms. Carter, in light of recent events and after consultation with our legal team, we would like to formally rescind your leave and invite you to return to your position in the ICU. We recognize the value of your service and regret any distress our previous decision may have caused. Please contact HR to discuss your return. Respectfully, Marcus Parsons, Director." Evelyn read it twice, then deleted it. She wasn't going back, not to a place that had abandoned her the moment things got complicated. At 8:47 a.m., she walked into Mendez's office. The attorney was already at her desk, surrounded by case files and coffee cups. She looked up, grinned. "You look like hell." "Missed you too." Mendez gestured to a chair. "Sit. We've got a lot to cover." "Cole's termination? That's just the start." Mendez pulled out a folder. "Federal prosecutors filed civil rights charges yesterday. Unlawful detention, deprivation of rights under color of law. He's looking at 2 to 5 years if convicted." Evelyn absorbed that. "And the lawsuit?" "The department's offering a settlement. 6 figures, full apology, policy reforms, mandatory oversight. They want this done before trial." "How much?" $300,000, plus they cover all legal fees. It was more than Evelyn had expected, enough to make the whole nightmare feel almost worth it. Almost. "What about the hospital?" she asked. "They're scrambling. Reinstatement offer, back pay, public statement of support. They know you've got a wrongful termination case they can't win." Evelyn leaned back, processing. "What do you recommend?" "Take the settlement from the department, publicly. Make them eat the apology. As for the hospital?" Mendez's smile turned sharp. I say we make them sweat a little longer. Before Evelyn could respond, Mendez's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, frowned. It's Chief Daniels. You want me to answer? Evelyn nodded. Mendez put it on speaker. Chief, what can I do for you? Daniels' voice came through, tense and clipped. Is Ms. Carter with you? I'm here, Evelyn said. Good. We have a situation. I need you to come to the department now. What kind of situation? There was a long pause. Officer Cole's missing, and we just found something in his locker you need to see. Evelyn and Mendez exchanged a look. Missing officers didn't just vanish, and whatever was in Cole's locker, Chief Daniels wouldn't have called unless it changed everything. We'll be there in 20 minutes, Evelyn said. The line went dead. Mendez grabbed her keys. You don't have to go, I can handle this. He asked for me specifically, which is exactly why you shouldn't go. This could be a setup. Evelyn stood, already moving toward the door. Then come with me and make sure it isn't. They took Mendez's car, a silver Accord that smelled like coffee and legal briefs. The drive to the Boulder County Sheriff's Department took 18 minutes. Neither of them spoke much. Evelyn watched the landscape roll by. Strip malls, coffee shops, the ordinary rhythm of a city that had no idea what was happening in its own backyard. The department building was modern, all glass and steel, designed to project transparency. Evelyn had never been inside. She'd avoided it deliberately, the same way she avoided VA hospitals and firing ranges and anywhere else that triggered memories she'd rather leave buried. Daniels met them in the lobby. No handshake this time, just a tight nod. Follow me. He led them through security, past a bullpen of desks where officers pretended not to stare, and into a conference room with blinds drawn. Inside, two people waited. A woman in her 40s wearing an FBI windbreaker, and a younger man in slacks and a button-down who had federal prosecutor written all over him. Ms. Carter, this is Special Agent Layla Okafor, FBI, and Assistant U.S. Attorney Marcus Webb, Daniels said. They've been working the civil rights case against Cole. Okafor stood, extended a hand. Ms. Carter, thank you for coming. Evelyn shook it. What's this about? Webb gestured to the table where an evidence bag sat next to a laptop. Inside the bag was a small black notebook, the kind you could buy at any drugstore. We executed a search of Officer Cole's locker this morning as part of the federal investigation, Webb said. Standard procedure. We found this. He pulled the notebook out, handling it with gloved hands, and opened it to a marked page. The handwriting was tight, precise, almost obsessive. October 17th, E. Carter. White female, 34, nurse. Stopped outside Riverside Apartments. Too calm. Didn't argue. Suspicious. Verify background. Possible ties? Evelyn's stomach dropped. There are 43 entries like this, Okafor said quietly. Different names, different dates, different locations. All people he stopped. All people he suspected of something without evidence. Mendez leaned over, scanning the page. This is a kill list. Not exactly, Webb corrected, but it's documentation of a pattern. Unlawful stops, unwarranted searches, harassment based on subjective suspicion. And yours isn't the only name we recognize. He flipped to another page. September 3rd. K. Harrison. Black male, 28, software engineer. Stopped for broken taillight. Light wasn't broken. Gave warning anyway. Needs watching. Another page. August 12th. M. Patel. South Asian female, 41, teacher. Too many questions about why I pulled her over. Defiant. Searched vehicle. Nothing found. Won't forget her. Evelyn felt cold. This wasn't just about her. Cole had been doing this for months, maybe longer, targeting people, documenting them, building a personal case file based on nothing but his own paranoia. How many people? She asked. 43 documented, Okafor said. We're cross-referencing with department records, body cam footage, civilian complaints. So far, we've confirmed at least 27 unlawful stops. And nobody caught this? Daniel's jaw tightened. Complaints were filed. Most were dismissed as unfounded. A few resulted in verbal warnings. Nothing stuck. Because you didn't want it to, Mendez said sharply. Because we didn't look hard enough, Daniel shot back. And that's on me. On all of us. Webb closed the notebook. Ms. Carter, we need your help. You're the only person on this list who fought back publicly, the only one whose case went viral. If we're going to build a federal case, not just against Cole, but against the system that enabled him, we need you to testify. Evelyn sat down slowly. Testify to what? Everything. The stop, the search, the escalation, how he ignored evidence, how he targeted you without cause, and how the department failed to intervene. Webb's expression was serious. This isn't just about one bad cop anymore. It's about institutional failure. And if we can prove that, we can force systemic change. You want me to be the face of this? You already are. Evelyn looked at Mendez, who gave a small nod. Then at Okafor, whose expression was unreadable. Finally at Daniels, who looked like a man watching his career crumble in real time. What about Cole? Evelyn asked. You said he's missing. Okafor pulled out her phone, swiped to a photo, and slid it across the table. It showed Cole's apartment, front door open, lights on, no sign of forced entry.
He didn't show up for his suspension hearing this morning, Okafor said. We went to his residence for a welfare check. Door was unlocked, no one inside. His car's gone, phone's off, and he withdrew $8,000 from his bank account yesterday. He ran, Mendez said. Looks that way. Evelyn studied the photo. Where would he go? We're checking family, known associates, credit card activity. But if he's smart, he ditched the cards and went dark. Okafor paused. There's something else. We found firearms missing from his personal collection. 2 handguns, registered to him, unaccounted for. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. You think he's dangerous? Evelyn asked. I think he's desperate, and desperate people make bad decisions.
Webb leaned forward. Ms. Carter, we're going to find him, but in the meantime, we need to know. Has he contacted you, threatened you? Anything we should be aware of? Evelyn thought back to the anonymous email she'd received weeks ago. You don't know what you're starting, drop it. She'd deleted it, written it off as internet noise. Now she wasn't so sure. I got an anonymous message a few weeks back, told me to drop the case. Do you still have it? No, I deleted it. Okafor made a note. We can pull it from your email server. Anything else? No. But even as she said it, Evelyn felt the crawl of unease. Cole knew where she lived. He'd seen her car, her license, her address on the registration. And if he was armed and running, there was no telling what he might do. We're assigning a protective detail, Okafor said, reading her expression. Plain clothes, unmarked vehicle. They'll stay outside your residence until Cole's in custody. I don't need protection. It's not optional. Okafor's tone left no room for argument. You're a federal witness now. That comes with security. Mendez touched Evelyn's arm. Let them do their job. Evelyn didn't argue further. She just nodded. The meeting wrapped up 20 minutes later. Webb and Okafor left to coordinate the manhunt. Daniels walked Evelyn and Mendez back to the lobby, his expression grim. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I'm sorry. I should have seen this coming. Evelyn stopped at the door. You did see it. You just didn't act. He didn't have a response to that. Outside, the afternoon sun was too bright, too ordinary. Evelyn climbed into Mendez's car and stared at her hands. They were steady. They always were. But inside, something was shifting, a growing awareness that this situation was no longer contained. You okay? Mendez asked. No. Good. That means you're paying attention. Mendez started the engine. I'm staying with you tonight. No arguments. I can handle myself. I know, but you shouldn't have to. They drove back to Evelyn's house in silence. The protective detail was already in place. A dark SUV parked 3 houses down, 2 agents inside watching. Evelyn hated it. The surveillance, the intrusion, the reminder that her life was no longer entirely her own. Inside, Mendez made coffee while Evelyn checked her phone. 17 missed calls, most from reporters. A few from hospital administrators, one from a number she didn't recognize but instinctively answered. Ms. Carter? The voice was female, shaking. This is Maya Reeves, the student, the diabetic, the reason this whole nightmare had started. Maya, are you okay? I don't know. There's a man outside my building. He's been sitting in his car for the past hour, just watching. And I think it's the officer, the one from the video. Evelyn's blood went cold. Are you sure?
I don't know. I only saw him that one time, but the car, it's the same model, dark blue sedan, and he keeps looking up at my window. Lock your doors. Don't go outside. I'm calling the FBI right now.
She hung up and immediately dialed Okafor. The agent answered on the first ring. Carter, what is it? Maya Reeves, the student I helped. She thinks Cole's outside her apartment, watching her. Address? Evelyn rattled it off. She heard Okafor relay the information to someone else, heard the sudden urgency in her voice. We're sending units now. Tell her to stay inside, away from windows. We'll have eyes on that location in 3 minutes. She's scared. I know, but we'll get there. The line went dead. Evelyn paced the living room, phone clutched in her hand. Mendez watched from the kitchen, tension written across her face. They'll get there in time, Mendez said. You don't know that. I know they're faster than Cole is stupid. 3 minutes felt like 30. Evelyn called Maya back, stayed on the line, listened to her breathing, the small sounds of fear. Outside, the protective details SUV was still parked, agents alert but unmoving. Then Maya's voice, sharp. He's getting out of the car. Stay away from the windows. He's looking at the building. Oh my God, he's coming toward the door. Maya, listen to me. Do not open that door. Do you have a lock? A deadbolt? Yes. Engage it now and get to the bathroom. Lock yourself in. I'm scared. I know, but you're going to be okay. The police are almost there. Evelyn heard movement, the sound of a door closing, a lock clicking. Then Maya's voice, quieter now, muffled. I'm in the bathroom. Good. Stay there. Stay quiet. Seconds ticked by. Evelyn could hear Maya's breathing, fast and shallow. Then a new sound, knocking, loud, insistent. He's knocking on my door, Maya whispered. Don't answer. The knocking continued. Then a voice, male, distorted through the door. Maya, I need to talk to you. It was Cole. Evelyn recognized the tone from the parking lot. Authoritative, demanding, the voice of someone used to being obeyed. Maya, it's Officer Cole. I need to ask you a few follow-up questions about your statement. Can you open the door? Maya's breathing hitched. What do I do? Nothing. Don't answer. Don't make a sound. The knocking stopped. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Cole's voice again, quieter this time, almost pleading. I know you're in there. I just want to talk. I'm not going to hurt you. I just need to explain. The sound of sirens cut through the air, distant but growing closer. Police are coming, Maya whispered. Good. Stay where you are. Evelyn heard Cole curse, heard footsteps retreating, then the slam of a car door. Tires screeched. The sirens grew louder, and suddenly there were voices. Urgent, commanding. Boulder PD, stop the vehicle. Then silence. Maya's voice trembling. They're here. They're here. Evelyn exhaled. Are you safe? I think so. Someone's knocking again. They're saying they're police. Ask them to identify themselves. Badge numbers. A pause. Then Maya, louder now. Who are you? A male voice, calm and professional. Officer Santos, Boulder PD, badge 4127. We received a report of a suspicious person. Are you okay? Santos, the officer who'd been at the original stop, the one who'd shown a flicker of doubt when Cole was escalating. It's okay, Evelyn said. You can open the door. She heard the lock disengage, the door open, voices overlapping. Then Santos speaking directly into Maya's phone. Ms. Carter? I'm here. Maya's safe. We're securing the building, but the suspect fled before we arrived. Units are in pursuit. Did you get a visual? Briefly. Dark blue sedan, headed south on Highway 36. We've got 3 units following, helicopter en route. Keep her safe. We will. The call ended. Evelyn sank onto the couch, phone still in her hand. Mendez sat beside her, silent. He went after her, Evelyn said quietly. He went after a kid because she corroborated my story. He's unraveling. He's dangerous. Outside, the protective details SUV was no longer parked. It was gone, presumably redirected to the pursuit. Evelyn didn't like that, didn't like being exposed, but she understood the math. Maya was in immediate danger. Evelyn was just a potential target. Her phone buzzed. A text from Okafor. Pursuit ongoing. Suspect heading toward Mountain Pass. Stay inside. Detail reassigned, but back up en route. Then another message. This one from an unknown number. You did this. You ruined my life. I hope you're happy. Evelyn stared at the words. The number was Cole's. Had to be. A burner phone, probably, something he'd bought with cash while planning his escape. She showed Mendez. Don't respond, Mendez said immediately. I wasn't planning to. But another message came through before she could block the number. I was a good cop. I did everything right, and you turned me into a villain. Then, you don't know what it's like. The pressure. The scrutiny. Every decision questioned. Every move recorded. You think you're the victim? You have no idea. Evelyn's jaw tightened. She typed a response before Mendez could stop her. You made your own choices. Own them. She hit send. The reply came instantly. So did you. Then nothing. Evelyn waited, but no more messages came. She forwarded the text to Okafor, blocked the number, and set her phone down. That was stupid, Mendez said. Probably. He's trying to provoke you. Get inside your head. He's failing. But that wasn't entirely true, because somewhere in the back of Evelyn's mind, a small voice whispered that Cole wasn't entirely wrong. She had made choices. She'd fought back when she could have let it go. She'd gone public when she could have stayed quiet. And now a man was on the run, a student was traumatized, and a system was tearing itself apart. She didn't regret it, but she understood the weight of it. An hour later, Okafor called. We lost him. Evelyn's stomach sank. How? He ditched his car near El Dorado Springs, fled on foot into the backcountry. Search and rescue's mobilizing, but it's rough terrain. If he knows the area, he could stay hidden for days. He's armed. We know. We're treating this as a manhunt for an armed and dangerous suspect. State police are involved, park rangers, everyone. But until we have him in custody, you need to stay vigilant. Where's Maya? Safe house. We moved her an hour ago. Good. Miss Carter, I need you to understand something. Cole's messages, they show escalation. He's not thinking clearly. If he contacts you again, do not engage. Just forward everything to me immediately. I will. And the protective details back outside your house. Don't leave without telling them. Understood. The call ended. Night fell. Mendez ordered takeout, but neither of them ate much. They sat in the living room, lights off, watching the street through the blinds. The SUV was back, parked in the same spot, agents visible in silhouette. Evelyn's phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. She answered cautiously. Hello? Ms. Carter, this is Dennis Keller, the Marine from the parking lot. She relaxed slightly. Dennis? Hi. Saw the news, heard Cole's on the run. You okay? I'm fine. Bullshit. You're sitting in your house with feds outside because a dirty cop's got a grudge. That's not fine. Despite everything, Evelyn almost smiled. I've handled worse. I know you have. That's not the point. Dennis paused. Look, I don't know if this helps, but I did some digging. Called a few guys I know in local law enforcement, old contacts from my Corps days. Cole's got a history. Evelyn sat up straighter. What kind of history? Disciplinary issues. Started in his first department down in New Mexico. Got transferred after complaints of excessive force. Landed in Boulder, clean slate, kept his head down for a while. But the pattern was there. Guy's got a complex, needs to be in control. When he's not, he snaps. Why didn't this come up in the investigation? Because transfers bury records. New department doesn't always dig deep, and cops protect their own, even the bad ones. Dennis's voice hardened. Until someone like you comes along and forces the issue. I didn't ask for this. No, but you didn't run from it either. That counts. After they hung up, Evelyn sat in the dark, processing. Cole wasn't just a bad cop. He was a repeat offender, shuffled from department to department, his record scrubbed each time. And she'd been the one to finally expose him. No wonder he was unraveling. Mendez fell asleep on the couch around midnight. Evelyn stayed awake, watching the street, mind racing. She thought about Kandahar, about the nights when mortar fire lit up the sky and sleep was impossible, about the hypervigilance that never really went away, even years later. At 2:17 a.m., her phone rang. Okafor. We found his car.
the agent said without preamble. Abandoned near a trailhead, K9 units tracked his scent for 2 miles, then lost it at a creek.
So he's still out there, for now. But he can't hide forever. We've got thermal imaging, drones, ground teams. It's just a matter of time. Unless he doesn't want to be found alive. Okafor was quiet for a moment. We're considering that possibility. You think I think he's cornered. And cornered people do unpredictable things. Okafor's voice softened slightly. Get some sleep, Ms. Carter. We've got this. But Evelyn couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, watching the dark street, the SUV, the occasional car passing by. Somewhere out there, Ryan Cole was hiding in the mountains, armed and desperate. And she was the reason. At 4:03 a.m., her phone buzzed, a text from the same block number Cole had used earlier. I'm not the villain, you are. Then, you'll see. Evelyn forwarded the messages to Okafor, then stared at the screen. The words felt like a threat. But a threat of what? She didn't have to wait long to find out. At 4:47 a.m., the Protective Details SUV exploded. The blast shattered every window on the street. Evelyn hit the floor instinctively, arms over her head, ears ringing. Mendez jolted awake, disoriented. Outside, flames engulfed the vehicle, black smoke billowing into the pre-dawn sky. Evelyn crawled to the window, looked out. The SUV was a burning shell. She couldn't see the agents, couldn't see movement. Call 911, she told Mendez, but her phone was already ringing. Okafor. Carter, are you okay? We're fine. The detail agents are alive. They got out before the blast. Looks like a remotely detonated device planted while they were repositioned to Maya's location. Okafor's voice was tight. Cole's making a statement, and he's escalating. Evelyn's hands shook, not from fear, from rage. Where is he? We don't know, but he's watching. He had to be close enough to trigger the device. Sirens filled the air. Fire trucks, ambulances, more police. Evelyn's quiet street had become a crime scene. We're evacuating you, Okafor said. Now, pack a bag. You've got 5 minutes. I'm not running. This isn't a request. He just tried to kill 2 federal agents. You're next. Then let him come. Evelyn? I'm not running, she repeated, harder this time. I'm done being reactive. If he wants me, he's going to have to face me. That's not how this works. Then change how it works. She hung up. Mendez stared at her. You've lost your mind. Maybe. He's going to kill you. He's going to try. Outside, the flames were dying down, smothered by fire crews. Neighbors stood on porches, filming. The remains of the SUV smoked in the street, metal twisted and black. Evelyn's phone buzzed one more time. Another message from Cole. See you soon. Evelyn stood at the window, staring at the wreckage in her street, and made a decision. Cole wanted her afraid, wanted her running. Every action he'd taken, from the parking lot to the manhunt to the bomb, had been about asserting control over someone who'd refused to submit. She wasn't going to give him that satisfaction. Mendez grabbed her arm. You're not seriously planning to stay here. I'm not planning to hide. That's not the same thing. It is for me. Before Mendez could argue further, Evelyn's front door burst open. Okafor stormed in, flanked by 2 agents in tactical gear, faces hard. We're leaving. Now. Evelyn didn't move. I told you, and I'm telling you, that your opinion stopped mattering the second Cole planted an explosive device 50 feet from your house. Okafor's voice was steel. You're a federal witness in protective custody. That means I decide where you go and when. Pack a bag or don't, but you're coming with us. For a long moment, the 2 women stared at each other. Evelyn had faced down insurgents, incompetent officers, and institutional indifference. But Okafor wasn't bluffing. This wasn't negotiation. Fine, Evelyn said. But we do this my way. That's not how... He's watching. You said it yourself, which means wherever you take me, he'll follow. So instead of running, we use that. Okafor's expression shifted, calculation replacing anger. What are you proposing? Set a trap. Make me visible. Controlled. Somewhere you have the advantage. Let him come to me. You want to be bait. I want to end this. Mendez stepped between them. That's insane. You're not trained for this. I'm trained for worse. Evelyn looked at Okafor. You have tactical teams, surveillance, resources. Use them. But stop trying to hide me like I'm fragile. I'm not. Okafor was silent for several seconds, weighing options. Then she pulled out her phone, stepped into the hallway, and made a call. Evelyn couldn't hear the conversation, but she saw the agent's posture shift from resistance to consideration to reluctant agreement. When Okafor returned, her expression was unreadable. I talked to my SAC. He's willing to consider it, but only under specific conditions. You follow every instruction. You wear a wire. You stay in designated areas. And the second we say abort, you comply without question. Agreed. I'm not finished. This isn't some Hollywood setup. If Cole gets past our perimeter, if he gets close enough to hurt you, there's no guarantee we can stop him in time. You understand that? I've operated in combat zones where the threat was constant and invisible. I'll take a controlled environment with federal backup any day. Okafor exhaled slowly. We're using the federal courthouse in Denver. It's secure, monitored, and we can control access. You'll be there for a deposition, official business, publicly announced. He'll know where you are and when. And you'll be waiting. Every entry point, every rooftop, every vehicle within 3 blocks. If he shows, we'll have him. Mendez looked like she wanted to argue, but she just shook her head. You're both out of your minds. Probably, Evelyn said. But it's better than waiting for him to pick the time and place. They left the house at 5:34 a.m., before the media could descend. 3 vehicles, 1 carrying Evelyn and Mendez, 2 flanking them with tactical agents. The drive to Denver took 47 minutes. No one spoke. Evelyn watched the landscape blur past, mind already shifting into the detached focus she'd learned in the field. Emotion was a liability. Clarity was survival. The federal courthouse was a fortress of concrete and glass in downtown Denver, surrounded by security barriers and checkpoints. They entered through an underground garage, took a freight elevator to the 8th floor, and emerged into a corridor lined with conference rooms. Okafor led them to a room at the end, large, windowed on one side, with a long table and recording equipment already set up. The deposition starts at 10 a.m., Okafor said. We'll announce it publicly at 8. That gives Cole 2 hours to make a move if he's monitoring news or social media. He will be, Evelyn said. Tactical teams are already in position. Snipers on adjacent buildings, plainclothes agents in the lobby, undercover vehicles on every block. If he tries to enter the building, we'll intercept. If he tries something external, we'll have eyes on him before he gets close. What about civilians? Building's been cleared of non-essential personnel. Everyone here is law enforcement or court staff who've been briefed. Evelyn nodded. It was as controlled as it could be, but controlled didn't mean safe. Webb arrived 20 minutes later carrying a briefcase and looking like he hadn't slept. He set up his laptop, reviewed notes, then looked at Evelyn. You sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. If he shows, the deposition stops. We're not risking your life for testimony we can get later. Understood. At 7:52 a.m., the FBI's Public Affairs Office released a statement. Federal witness Evelyn Carter to provide deposition in civil rights case, U.S. District Courthouse, Denver, 10 a.m. By 8:15 a.m., it was trending online. Evelyn sat in the conference room, wired with a microphone and GPS tracker, wearing a Kevlar vest under her jacket. Mendez sat across from her, laptop open, monitoring news feeds. He's going to see this, Mendez said quietly. That's the idea. And if he doesn't take the bait? Then we wasted a day. But I don't think we will. At 8:47 a.m., Okafor's radio crackled. She stepped into the hallway, listened, then returned with her expression tight. We've got a hit. Security footage from a gas station in Littleton, 40 minutes south. Mail matching Cole's description, purchased fuel, and a prepaid phone at 7:30 a.m. Evelyn's pulse kicked up. He's coming. Maybe. Or he's running in the opposite direction. Either way, units are en route to the location. But Evelyn knew. She could feel it, the same way she'd felt incoming fire before the first round hit. Cole wasn't running anymore. He was done hiding. At 9:23 a.m., another update. A dark blue sedan, different plates, but same make and model as Cole's original vehicle, had been spotted on I-25 northbound, heading toward Denver. That's him, Okafor said. All units, suspect vehicle inbound. Maintain positions. Do not engage unless directly threatened. The room fell silent. Evelyn could hear her own heartbeat, steady and controlled.
72 beats per minute. Always 72.
At 9:41 a.m., the sedan exited the highway 3 miles from the courthouse. At 9:56 a.m., it parked in a public lot 2 blocks away. Okafor's radio exploded with chatter, agents reporting positions, eyes on the vehicle, no movement yet. "He's sitting there," Okafor said, listening. "Engine off. Just sitting." "He's thinking," Evelyn said. "About what?" "Whether this is worth it." At 10:02 a.m., Cole got out of the car. Tactical teams reported his position in real time. Walking west on 17th Street, hands visible, no weapon drawn. Wearing a jacket, jeans, baseball cap pulled low, moving with purpose but not rushing. "He's heading for the courthouse," Okafor said. "All units, tighten perimeter. Do not let him inside." Evelyn stood, moved to the window. She couldn't see the street from this angle, but she imagined it. Cole walking toward the building, knowing he was surrounded, knowing this was likely a one-way trip. "What's he carrying?" she asked. Okafor listened to her radio. "Can't tell. Jacket's bulky. Could be concealing a weapon." "Or a vest." Okafor's eyes narrowed. "You think he's wired?" "I think he's desperate enough to try anything." At 10:06 a.m., Cole reached the courthouse steps. He stopped at the base, looked up at the building, and pulled something from his jacket. Every agent's weapon came up, but it wasn't a gun. It was a phone. He held it up, clearly visible, and typed something. Evelyn's phone buzzed. "I just want to talk, face to face. No guns, just us." She showed Okafor. "Absolutely not," the agent said immediately. "He's not going to shoot me in a federal building surrounded by agents." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do. He wants an audience. He wants to justify himself. That's what this whole thing has been about, proving he was right." Okafor shook her head. "If I let you near him and he hurts you, my career's over. If you don't, he'll disappear again, or he'll do something worse." Evelyn met her eyes. "Let me talk to him. Controlled. You're right there. First sign of trouble, you move in." Okafor looked like she wanted to argue, but she keyed her radio instead. "Stand by. Do not engage. Suspect is requesting contact with the witness." A voice crackled back. "SAC wants confirmation on protocol? Tell him we're proceeding with controlled contact. Agent Okafor supervising." Evelyn walked to the door. Mendez grabbed her arm. "Don't do this." "I have to." "No, you don't." "Yes, I do." Evelyn pulled free gently. "He needs to hear it from me. That he's finished. That this is over. Otherwise, he'll keep running, keep blaming, keep destroying." She walked out before Mendez could stop her. The hallway was empty except for tactical agents positioned at every exit. They watched her pass, weapons ready, faces grim. She took the stairs down to the main lobby, 8 flights, enough time to steady her breathing, to push emotion back into the locked compartment where it couldn't interfere. The lobby was a cathedral of marble and glass. Okafor met her at the bottom of the stairs, along with 4 agents in tactical gear. "He's outside," Okafor said. "We'll open the door, let him see you, but he doesn't come inside. You talk through the entrance. We're 10 feet behind you the entire time." "Fine." They moved to the main doors, reinforced glass, bulletproof, flanked by metal detectors and security stations. Through the glass, Evelyn could see Cole standing on the steps, hands at his sides, no visible weapon. He looked smaller than she remembered, thinner. His face was unshaven, eyes bloodshot, posture tense. He didn't look like a cop anymore. He looked like a man who'd run out of options. Okafor nodded to an agent who unlocked the door and pushed it open 6 inches. Cole's eyes locked onto Evelyn. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Cole took a step forward. Immediately, a dozen red laser dots appeared on his chest. "That's far enough," Okafor called. He stopped, raised his hand slightly. "I'm not armed. Keep your hands where we can see them." He did. His eyes never left Evelyn. "You came." "You didn't give me much choice," she said. "I gave you plenty of choices. You just kept making the wrong ones." "Wrong for who? You?" "Wrong for everyone." His voice cracked slightly. "You ruined my life." "I didn't ruin anything. You did. Every choice that led here was yours." "I was doing my job." "No. You were abusing your authority. There's a difference." Cole's jaw tightened. "You don't know what it's like. Every day dealing with people who lie, who hide, who treat you like the enemy. You get paranoid. You start seeing threats everywhere. That's not an excuse. I'm not making excuses. I'm explaining. I don't care about your explanation. I care about the people you hurt, the stops you made without cause, the searches you conducted illegally, the lives you disrupted because you couldn't handle the possibility that you were wrong. I wasn't wrong about you. Yes, you were. I was a nurse helping a patient, that's it. But you couldn't accept that because it didn't fit the narrative you'd built in your head. Cole's hands dropped slightly. The laser dots tracked the movement. I lost everything because of you. You lost everything because of you. I just refused to pretend it was okay. You could have dropped it, moved on, let it go. And let you do it to someone else? No. So this is justice? Destroying me? Evelyn stepped closer to the door, close enough that only the glass separated them. Justice is you being held accountable. That's not destruction, that's consequence. Cole's expression twisted. You think you're the hero here? I think I'm someone who refused to be your victim. You are a victim, you just don't know it yet. He reached into his jacket. Every agent moved, weapons raised, voices shouting. Evelyn didn't flinch. She watched Cole's hand emerge, not with a gun, but with an envelope. Don't move, Okafor commanded. Cole held the envelope up. It's just paper. Evidence you should see. Drop it and step back. He tossed it onto the steps and raised his hands again. Read it. Then tell me who the real villain is. An agent moved forward, retrieved the envelope carefully, brought it to Okafor. She opened it, scanned the contents, and her expression darkened. What is it? Evelyn asked. Okafor handed it to her. Inside were printouts, emails, time-stamped and authenticated. Correspondence between Chief Daniels and Internal Affairs, dating back 18 months. Evelyn read the first one. From Chief M. Daniels to IA Supervisor, R. Garrett. Subject, Officer Cole. Complaints Rick. Another complaint came in about Cole. Same pattern. Unlawful stop, excessive search. Civilian's lawyer is pushing hard. I need this buried. We can't afford another PR disaster right now. Reassign the complaint to training review. Cite officer discretion. Let's move on. She read the next. From Chief M. Daniels to I, a supervisor. R. Garrett. Subject Cole. Follow-up. Fourth complaint this year. I know. But terminating him opens us up to wrongful termination suits, and his union rep is aggressive. Easier to keep him on, watch him close, and hope he retires early. Make this one go away too. There were 6 more emails, all showing the same pattern. Daniels knew. He'd known for over a year that Cole was a problem, and he'd actively covered it up. Evelyn looked up at Cole, who was watching her with something like vindication in his eyes. They protected me, he said, for years, because firing me was harder than hiding what I did. So tell me, who's the villain? Me or the system that let me operate? Evelyn's hands tightened on the papers. Both. Fair enough. Cole's voice was quieter now, almost resigned. But you went after me, not them, not Daniels, not the department, just me. You're the one who stopped me, because they trained me to. Okafor stepped forward. Officer Cole, you're under arrest. Turn around, hands behind your back. Cole didn't move. I'm not going to prison. That's not your decision. Yeah, it is. He took a step backward toward the street. Stop moving. Another step. I'm done. Cole? He turned and ran. Tactical agents flooded out of the building. Evelyn saw it unfold in slow motion. Cole sprinting down the steps, agents in pursuit, laser sights tracking his movement. He reached the sidewalk, veered left, heading for the parking lot where he'd left his car. He didn't make it. An unmarked van screeched to a halt in front of him, blocking his path. Agents poured out. Cole tried to reverse direction, but there were more behind him. He was surrounded in seconds. Hands up! Get on the ground! He stood frozen, breathing hard, surrounded by drawn weapons and shouted commands. For a moment, Evelyn thought he might comply. Might finally surrender. Then his hand moved toward his waistband. Every weapon discharged at once. Cole dropped. Evelyn's ears rang from the gunfire. She couldn't see past the crowd of agents, but she didn't need to. She knew what had happened. Okafor grabbed her arm, pulled her back inside. Don't look. But Evelyn had already seen.
had already cataloged the scene with the clinical detachment of someone who'd treated too many gunshot wounds to be shocked by them anymore. Medics rushed forward. Agents secured the area. Okafor was on her radio, coordinating response. Mendez appeared at Evelyn's side, face pale. Is he... I don't know. They waited. The minutes stretched. Then an agent emerged from the crowd and approached Okafor, spoke quietly. Okafor's shoulders dropped.
She turned to Evelyn. He's alive. Critical, but stable. They're transporting him now. Evelyn nodded. She didn't feel relief. Didn't feel triumph. Just exhaustion. What was he reaching for? She asked. Okafor hesitated, then pulled out an evidence bag. Inside was a small black object, not a gun, a voice recorder. He was recording, Okafor said quietly. The whole conversation. Probably planned to release it as some kind of manifesto. Evelyn stared at the recorder. Even in his final moments, Cole had been trying to control the narrative, to justify himself, to shift blame. What about the emails? She asked. Okafor's expression hardened. We'll verify them. If they're authentic, and they look authentic, Chief Daniels is finished. He knew. For over a year, he knew Cole was dirty, and he covered it up. Which makes him complicit, and that's a federal crime. Within 3 hours, Daniels was in custody. The emails were verified. Media exploded. The story wasn't just about one bad cop anymore. It was about institutional corruption, about a chief who'd prioritized optics over accountability, about a system that protected abusers until someone forced them to stop. Evelyn gave her deposition that afternoon, 4 hours of questions, recorded and transcribed. She walked Webb through everything, the stop, the search, the escalation, the aftermath. She handed over the notebook Cole had kept, the threatening messages, every piece of evidence she'd accumulated. When it was over, Webb shook her hand. This is going to change things, he said. Not just in Boulder, nationally. Will it stick? If we do our jobs right, yes. Evelyn left the courthouse at 6:14 p.m., exhausted but clear-headed. Mendez drove her to a hotel, anonymous, secure, far from cameras. They ordered room service and ate in silence. Finally, Mendez spoke. You okay? No, but I will be. You almost got killed today. Almost doesn't count. Evelyn, I know it was reckless, but it worked. This time. Next time, you might not be so lucky. Evelyn set down her fork. There won't be a next time. Cole's in custody. Daniels is facing charges. The system's being torn apart and rebuilt. This is over. Is it? The question hung in the air, because Mendez was right. Cole was just one officer. Daniels was just one chief. The emails had exposed a culture of protection and cover-up that went deeper than either of them. Evelyn's phone buzzed. A text from Okafor. Cole's in surgery. Doctors say he'll survive. And when he wakes up, he's going to face every charge we can throw at him. Another text followed. You did good today. Not many people would have had the guts to face him. Evelyn didn't respond. She just turned off her phone and stared out the hotel window at the Denver skyline. Somewhere in the city, Ryan Cole was fighting for his life on an operating table. Chief Daniels was sitting in a federal holding cell, and 43 people whose names had been in Cole's notebook were about to learn they'd been targeted by a cop who'd operated unchecked for years. Justice was slow, messy, incomplete. But it was happening. 2 days later, Evelyn received a call from an attorney representing the Boulder County Sheriff's Department. Ms. Carter, we'd like to offer a formal settlement, full financial compensation, public apology, policy reforms, and a commitment to federal oversight. How much? $450,000. It was more than the original offer, more than she'd expected. I'll consider it, she said. There's one condition. Of course there is. You agree not to pursue further civil action against the department or its employees. Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. I'll get back to you. She hung up and called Mendez. They're trying to buy your silence, Mendez said immediately. I know. So what do you want to do? Evelyn thought about Maya, the diabetic student who'd been terrorized in her own apartment, about the 27 confirmed victims in Cole's notebook, about every person who'd been stopped, searched, and humiliated without cause. I want them to pay for all of it, not just me. That's going to take years, multiple lawsuits, public trials. Then that's what it takes. Mendez was silent, then laughed quietly. You're exhausting. I've been told. Over the next week, more victims came forward. Maya filed her own lawsuit. 3 others from Cole's notebook hired attorneys. The DOJ announced a pattern and practice investigation into the entire Boulder County Sheriff's Department. Cole survived surgery but was charged with attempted murder of federal agents, unlawful use of explosives, and 17 counts of civil rights violations. His bail was denied. Chief Daniels was charged with obstruction of justice and conspiracy to deprive citizens of their civil rights. He resigned in disgrace. And Evelyn returned to work, not at Redwood General. They'd burned that bridge. But a smaller hospital in Denver reached out, a place that served underserved communities and needed experienced ICU nurses who weren't afraid of complicated situations. She started on a Monday. No fanfare, no media, just scrubs, a stethoscope, and the quiet purpose of keeping people alive. On her second day, a patient in Bay 4 coded. Evelyn ran the resuscitation, clear, methodical, efficient. They brought him back after 4 minutes. Later, the attending physician found her in the break room. That was impressive. You've done this before. A few times. More than a few, I'd guess. He extended his hand. Dr. Marcus Lee. Welcome to the team. She shook it. Evelyn Carter. I know who you are. Everyone does. He smiled slightly. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're here. We need people who don't back down. That night, Evelyn drove home to her new apartment, smaller than the house, quieter, no news vans. She made dinner, checked her email, and found a message from Okafor. Trial date set for Cole. April 14th. You'll need to testify. Let me know if you need anything. Evelyn marked the date in her calendar and closed the laptop. She was done running, done hiding, done letting other people define what justice looked like. April 14th would come. She'd testify. She'd watch Ryan Cole face the consequences of every choice he'd made, and then she'd move on. But 3 days before the trial, Evelyn received a package at her apartment. No return address, just her name and a Denver P.O. box. Inside was a single photograph. It showed her leaving the hospital after her shift, walking to her car, unaware she was being watched. On the back, written in neat handwriting, "You think this is over, it's not." D. Evelyn stared at the photograph, then at the single letter on the back. D. Not Cole. He was in federal custody, his communications monitored. Someone else. Someone who'd been watching her, following her, waiting. She called Okafor immediately. I need you to see something. 20 minutes later, Okafor stood in Evelyn's apartment, holding the photo in gloved hands, her expression darker than Evelyn had ever seen it. This came today? An hour ago. Postmarked from where? Evelyn showed her the envelope. Denver, 2 days ago. Okafor bagged the evidence, then pulled out her phone and made a call. I need forensics on a package. Possible threat against a federal witness. Also run surveillance footage from... She glanced at Evelyn. What's your building's address? Evelyn provided it. Okafor relayed the information, hung up, then turned back to her. Who's D? I don't know. Think. Anyone from the department? Someone connected to Cole or Daniels? Evelyn's mind raced through names, faces, people who'd appeared in the investigation. Then it hit her. Not a name she'd heard, but one she'd seen. In the emails Daniels had sent to Internal Affairs. Rick Garrett, she said slowly. IA supervisor, the one Daniels kept asking to bury complaints. Okafor's eyes sharpened. Middle name? I don't know, but if he's been covering for Cole all this time and now everything's coming out, he's desperate. Okafor was already typing on her phone. I'm pulling his file now. She scrolled through whatever database she'd accessed, then stopped. Richard Dean Garrett. Goes by Dean with family and close friends. D. He knew Cole, Evelyn said, worked with him for years, protected him, and now Cole's facing life in prison, Daniels is finished, and the entire department's under federal investigation. So Garrett's next on the list, which means he has motive to silence you before trial. Okafor keyed her radio. All units, be advised we have a credible threat against witness Carter. Suspect possibly Richard Dean Garrett, Internal Affairs Supervisor, Boulder County Sheriff's Department. Treat as armed and dangerous. She turned back to Evelyn. You're not staying here. I'm not running again. This isn't running. This is tactical withdrawal until we locate Garrett and confirm he's not a threat. He is a threat. That's why he sent the photo. Then let us handle it. Like you handled Cole? Okafor's expression hardened. Cole walked into a federal building surrounded by tactical teams and still nearly killed you. I'm not making that mistake twice. Before Evelyn could argue, her phone rang. Unknown number. She showed Okafor, who nodded. Evelyn answered, putting it on speaker. Hello? Ms. Carter? The voice was male, older, calm. I think we need to talk. Who is this? Dean Garrett. You've probably heard my name by now. Okafor mouthed, don't engage, but Evelyn ignored her. Why are you calling me? Because I want you to understand something before this goes any further. I'm not your enemy. You sent me a photo of myself being stalked. I sent you proof that you're being watched. There's a difference. By who? You? By people who don't want the truth coming out. People who have a lot more to lose than one disgraced police chief. Evelyn's chest tightened. What are you talking about? The investigation into Cole and Daniels? It's just the surface. There's a network, officers, supervisors, city officials who've been covering for each other for years. And when you testify next week, you're going to expose all of it. Good. Not good. Dangerous. These people won't let that happen quietly. Okafor grabbed the phone. Mr. Garrett, this is FBI Special Agent Layla Okafor. If you have information about threats against a federal witness, you need to come in and provide a statement. There was a pause, then Garrett's voice, quieter now. I can't do that. Why not? Because I'm one of them. And if I walk into a federal building, I'm never walking out. Then surrender. We'll protect you. You can't protect me from what's coming, but I can help Ms. Carter survive it. How? Meet me. Alone. I'll give you names, evidence, everything you need to take down the entire operation. But it has to be now, before they realize I'm talking. Okafor's jaw tightened. That's not happening. Then Ms. Carter's going to end up like the others. Evelyn grabbed the phone back. What others? 3 witnesses in similar cases over the past decade. All died before they could testify. Car accidents, home invasions, 1 ruled a suicide. All convenient, all unsolved. Garrett's voice carried genuine fear now. You're not the first person to try and break this system, but if you don't let me help you, you'll be the last. The line went dead. Evelyn and Okafor stared at each other. He's lying, Okafor said. Trying to scare you into meeting him somewhere isolated where he can… What if he's not? Then he needs to come to us with evidence, not play spy games. He won't. You heard him. He's scared. So are you, which is why you're not meeting him. Evelyn set the phone down carefully. 3 witnesses, dead. How do we know that's not true? Okafor hesitated, then pulled out her phone and made another call. I need case files on any witness deaths in civil rights cases against law enforcement in Colorado over the past 10 years. Cross-reference with Boulder County. She waited, listening. Her expression shifted, just slightly, but enough for Evelyn to notice. How many? Okafor asked quietly. A pause. Send me everything. She hung up and looked at Evelyn. 4 cases, not 3. 4 witnesses who died under questionable circumstances before trial. 1 was ruled accidental drowning. Another fell downstairs in her own home. 3rd was a hit and run. 4th was carbon monoxide poisoning, garage door mysteriously left closed. Evelyn's blood ran cold. Garrett wasn't lying. He wasn't telling the whole truth either. He's implicated in at least 2 of those cases, signed off on the investigations, helped close them without further inquiry. So he's guilty. Yes, but that doesn't mean he's wrong about the threat you're facing. What do we do? Okafor was silent for a long moment, weighing options. Then she made a decision. We set up a meet. Controlled environment, full surveillance, tactical backup. If Garrett shows and provides evidence, we take it. If he tries anything, we arrest him. And if he doesn't show, then we proceed to trial and hope the security we have in place is enough. The meet was set for the next evening, a public park in Aurora, chosen because it offered clear sightlines and multiple exit points. Evelyn would sit on a specific bench near the pond. Garrett would approach. Undercover agents would be positioned throughout the park, close enough to intervene, but distant enough not to spook him. Evelyn spent the day before in the hotel room Okafor had moved her to, reviewing case files and trying not to think about the 4 dead witnesses. She'd faced danger before, in war zones, in emergency rooms, in parking lots confronting armed cops. But this felt different, premeditated, calculated. Mendez arrived that afternoon with coffee and a grim expression. "You don't have to do this," she said immediately. "Yes, I do." "No, you really don't. You could refuse to testify, take the settlement, move to another state, start over. And let them win? Let yourself survive." Evelyn took the coffee, grateful for the warmth. "I didn't survive Kandahar just to run from dirty cops in Colorado." That's pride talking. That's principle talking. Mendez sat down heavily. "You know what the worst part of being your attorney is? Watching you make the right choice for all the wrong reasons." "What's the wrong reason?" "Thinking you have to fix everything broken in the system because you're the only one brave enough to try." Evelyn was quiet. Because Mendez wasn't entirely wrong. Part of her drive, the part that had pushed her through army training, through combat deployments, through every impossible situation, came from a belief that if she didn't act, no one would. "Maybe that's true," she said finally, "but it doesn't change what needs to happen. It changes whether you survive it." The park was nearly empty when Evelyn arrived at 6:47 p.m., 13 minutes early. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the grass. She sat on the designated bench, hands in her lap, breathing controlled. 72 beats per minute. Okafor's voice came through the hidden earpiece. "We have eyes on you. 3 agents in the park, 2 in vehicles on the perimeter, 1 sniper on the recreation center roof. You're covered." Evelyn didn't respond, couldn't, without looking like she was talking to herself. She just waited. At 7:02 p.m., a man approached from the east path. Mid-50s, graying hair, wearing a windbreaker and jeans. He walked with the deliberate gait of someone who knew he was being watched. Dean Garrett. He sat on the opposite end of the bench, not looking at her directly. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. "Tell me what you know." "There's a group, 15, maybe 20 officers and officials across 3 counties. They protect each other, cover up complaints, bury investigations, discredit witnesses. It started small, just cops looking out for cops. But it grew. Now it's organized. Names. I'll give you names, but first you need to understand what you're up against. These people have resources, connections. They've made problems disappear before. Like the 4 witnesses." Garrett's jaw tightened. "Yes. Did you kill them?" "No. But I helped hide what happened to them. And I'll carry that for the rest of my life." "Why are you talking now?" "Because Cole went too far. The bombing, the manhunt. It brought federal heat we can't contain. And when you testify, you're going to name Daniels, which means the whole network gets exposed. Some of them want to cut losses, take the fall quietly. But others, they'd rather eliminate the problem." "Meaning me. Meaning you." Evelyn's hands tightened on the bench. "So, what's your play? Give me names, turn informant, cut a deal?" "Something like that. And in exchange, witness protection, a chance to disappear before they realize I flipped." Okafor's voice crackled in the earpiece. "He's wired. We're picking up a secondary transmission. Someone else is listening." Evelyn kept her expression neutral. "Who else is listening to this conversation, Dean?" Garrett's face went pale. "What? You're wearing a wire. Who's on the other end?" "I'm not—" He stopped, realization dawning. His hand went to his jacket, found the small device tucked inside. He ripped it out, stared at it, then looked around the park with rising panic. "They made me," he said, voice shaking. "They knew I'd flip. This whole thing was—" The gunshot came from the tree line, a sharp crack that echoed across the pond. Garrett jerked, hand going to his chest. Blood spread across his windbreaker. He collapsed onto the bench, eyes wide, struggling to breathe. Evelyn dropped to the ground instinctively, muscle memory from combat taking over. Agents swarmed from every direction. Okafor was shouting into her radio. The sniper on the roof was scanning for the shooter. Evelyn crawled to Garrett, pressed her hands against the wound. Entry wound, upper left chest, likely punctured lung. No exit wound. Bullet still inside. "Stay with me," she said, falling into the clinical detachment of triage. Focus on breathing. Garrett's hand grabbed her wrist weakly. Briefcase, under the bench. Evidence. She looked. A small black case, tucked beneath where Garrett had been sitting. She reached for it with one hand while maintaining pressure with the other. Who shot you? Kowalski, lieutenant, part of the network. Blood flecked his lips. He'll come for you next. Where is he? I don't... Garrett's breathing became labored, wet-sounding, punctured lung filling with blood. Evelyn shouted, I need a medic, now! An agent ran over with a medical kit. Evelyn grabbed gauze, packed the wound, tried to stabilize him, but she'd seen this injury pattern before, in Kandahar, on soldiers who didn't make it. Dean, stay with me. Keep your eyes open. But his eyes were already glazing. His grip on her wrist loosened. I'm sorry, he whispered, for all of it. Then he stopped breathing. Evelyn started compressions immediately, counting in her head, forcing air into his lungs. She worked for 4 minutes until the paramedics arrived and took over. They tried for another 6 minutes before calling it. Dean Garrett was dead. Evelyn stood slowly, blood on her hands, staring at the body. Around her, agents secured the park, searched the tree line, radioed for backup. But the shooter was gone. Okafor approached, expression grim. You okay? No. We'll find who did this. He told me. Lieutenant Kowalski. Okafor's eyes widened. Marcus Kowalski, Boulder PD? That's who Garrett named. He's been on the force for 23 years, decorated, respected, and part of the network. Evelyn picked up the briefcase Garrett had left. He said there's evidence in here. Okafor took it, handed it to another agent. We'll process it, but right now we need to get you somewhere secure. I'm not hiding. He's right. Kowalski will come for you. Then let him. Evelyn, no more defense, no more reacting. We go on offense. Okafor studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. What do you have in mind? The briefcase contained everything Garrett had promised. Personnel files, financial records, emails documenting payoffs and cover-ups, a ledger tracking which cases had been buried and which witnesses had been silenced, and a list of names, 17 officers and officials, including Lieutenant Marcus Kowalski. This is enough to bring them all down, Webb said, reviewing the documents in a secure FBI office. But we need time to verify, to build cases, to coordinate arrests. We don't have time, Evelyn said. Kowalski just killed Garrett to keep this quiet. He's not going to wait for us to build a case. So what do you suggest? Force his hand. Make the evidence public. All of it. Webb looked at Okafor, who looked at Evelyn like she'd lost her mind. That would compromise ongoing investigations, Okafor said. Tip off suspects. Give them time to destroy evidence or flee. Or it corners them. Makes it impossible to hide. Evelyn leaned forward. These people have operated in the shadows for years. They're only dangerous as long as no one knows they exist. But if their names, their crimes, their whole network gets exposed publicly, they lose their power. They also become desperate. They're already desperate. Garrett's dead because they're trying to contain this. But you can't contain something that's already public. Webb drummed his fingers on the table. It's risky. Everything about this has been risky. He looked at Okafor. Your call. Okafor was silent for a long time. Then she pulled out her phone. I'll need approval from the SAC and DOJ. This goes public. It's going to be a media firestorm. Good, Evelyn said. Let it burn. Within 18 hours, the documents were released to major news outlets. By the next morning, every network was running the story. Names, photos, allegations. The entire scope of the corruption network laid bare. Lieutenant Marcus Kowalski's face was on every screen, identified as a suspect in Garrett's murder and a key figure in the cover-up network. The public reaction was immediate and explosive. Protests outside police departments, calls for mass resignations. Federal authorities overwhelmed with tips and information, and Marcus Kowalski went into hiding. But he didn't stay hidden for long. 2 days before the trial, Evelyn received another message. This time, not a photo, just an address and a time. Tonight, 9 p.m. Come alone or more people die. The address was a warehouse in Commerce City, an industrial area east of Denver. Abandoned, isolated, the perfect place for an ambush. Evelyn showed Okafor. Absolutely not, the agent said immediately. He's not giving us a choice. Yes, he is. We ignore this, set up surveillance, wait for him to make a mistake. And if he kills someone while we're waiting, another witness, another officer who might flip? Okafor's jaw tightened. You're not bait anymore. The trial's in 2 days. We just need you alive until then. And after? He stays out there waiting, planning. This doesn't end until he's stopped. Then we stop him. Not you. Evelyn met her eyes. I'm going. You can either help me do it smart, or I'll do it alone. You're impossible. I've been told. The warehouse was exactly as grim as Evelyn expected. Corrugated metal walls, broken windows, graffiti-covered doors. She arrived at 8:47 p.m. in an unmarked FBI vehicle, surrounded by a tactical team positioned a quarter-mile back. Okafor's voice came through the earpiece. We have thermal imaging on the building, one heat signature inside, northeast corner. Could be Kowalski. Could be a trap. That's why we have 12 agents ready to breach on my signal. Evelyn stepped out of the vehicle, wearing a vest under her jacket, a wire hidden in her collar. She walked toward the entrance slowly, hands visible. The door was unlocked. Inside, the warehouse was dark except for a single light in the far corner. Evelyn moved toward it, footsteps echoing on concrete. Marcus Kowalski sat in a folding chair under the light, hands resting on his knees. Late 40s, military haircut, the kind of face that looked trustworthy until you saw the coldness in his eyes. Ms. Carter, glad you could make it. She stopped 20 feet away. You killed Dean Garrett. I did what was necessary. Necessary for who? For everyone. Garrett was going to destroy careers, lives, families, good people who made mistakes. Good people don't murder witnesses. And yet here we are. Kowalski stood slowly. You've caused a lot of damage, Ms. Carter. Careers ruined, reputations destroyed, a system dismantled. All because you couldn't let one traffic stop go. It wasn't a traffic stop. It was harassment. It was an officer doing his job. It was an officer abusing his power, and you protected him. You protected all of them. Because that's what we do. We take care of our own. Even when your own are corrupt, especially then. Kowalski took a step forward. Evelyn heard Okafor's voice sharp in her ear. Hold position. Do not engage. You know what your problem is, Kowalski continued. You think you're special. Think because you served overseas, because you saved some lives, you're above the rest of us. But you're not. You're just another civilian who doesn't understand what it takes to keep people safe. I understand perfectly. What I don't understand is how you justify murder. I don't justify it. I accept it. Because sometimes removing one problem prevents 100 more. Is that what I am? A problem? You were. Until you walked in here. His hand moved toward his waistband. Evelyn didn't hesitate. She dropped, rolled left, came up behind a support column. The gunshot echoed through the warehouse, bullets sparking off metal where she'd been standing. Breach! Breach! Okafor's voice through the earpiece. The warehouse doors exploded inward. Tactical agents flooded in, lights and lasers cutting through the darkness. Kowalski fired twice more, then ran toward the back exit. Evelyn stayed down, heart racing but mind clear. This was familiar territory. Chaos, violence, survival. She'd trained for this. Agents pursued Kowalski, shouting, more gunfire. Then silence. Suspect down, someone called. Evelyn stood slowly, moved toward the back of the warehouse. Kowalski was on the ground, hands zip-tied behind his back, 3 agents surrounding him. He was alive but bleeding from a shoulder wound. He saw Evelyn and laughed bitterly. You think this changes anything? There are more of us. There will always be more. Evelyn crouched down to his level. Maybe. But there will also always be people like me. People who refuse to accept that corruption is just how things work. And eventually, we win. You haven't won. You've just made enemies. I can live with that. She stood and walked away. The trial began on April 14th as scheduled. Ryan Cole sat in the defendant's chair, thinner than before, eyes hollow. His attorneys had tried every delay tactic, every motion to dismiss. All denied. Evelyn took the stand at 10:23 a.m. She wore a simple navy suit, no jewelry, hair pulled back. Professional, composed, unbreakable. Webb walked her through her testimony. The stop. The search. The escalation. The pattern of abuse documented in Cole's notebook. The institutional cover-up orchestrated by Daniels and Garrett. Cole's attorney tried to discredit her on cross-examination, implied she'd exaggerated, suggested she'd provoked the situation. Evelyn answered every question calmly, precisely, letting the evidence speak for itself. The trial lasted 6 days. Other witnesses testified: Maya Reeves, Dennis Keller, officers who'd worked with Cole and seen his pattern. Forensic experts presented the body cam footage, the emails, the financial records. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Cole showed no emotion when the verdict was read, just stared straight ahead, jaw tight. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. 12 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole. Chief Marcus Daniels pleaded guilty to obstruction and received 8 years. Lieutenant Kowalski was charged with first-degree murder for Garrett's death, along with conspiracy and civil rights violations. His trial was pending. 14 other officers and officials from the network were arrested. Some took plea deals. Others were preparing for trial. The Boulder County Sheriff's Department was placed under federal consent decree, requiring oversight and reform for a minimum of 5 years. Evelyn sat in the courtroom gallery when Cole was sentenced, watching the man who'd started this whole cascade be led away in handcuffs. She felt no satisfaction, no triumph, just exhaustion. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Evelyn ignored them, walked to where Mendez waited with the car. "How do you feel?" Mendez asked. "Tired." "That's it? What else should I feel?" "I don't know. Vindicated? Proud?" Evelyn was quiet for a moment. "I feel like I did what needed to be done." "That's enough." They drove back to Denver in silence. Evelyn stared out the window at the city passing by. People going to work, living their lives, unaware of the battles fought to keep the system accountable. That night, she received a call from Colonel Rivera. "Saw the news. Congratulations." "Thank you. I meant what I said before. The offer stands. We could use you." Evelyn thought about it. The clarity of military structure, the purpose, the distance from civilian complications. But she'd left that life for a reason. "I appreciate it, Colonel, but I think I'm where I need to be." "Doing what?" "Making sure this doesn't happen to someone else." Rivera was quiet. Then, "Good. The Army's loss is everyone else's gain." Over the next 6 months, Evelyn became a consultant for police reform initiatives. She testified before city councils, advised on oversight policies, trained officers on de-escalation and accountability. She also returned to nursing, splitting her time between the hospital and advocacy work. It wasn't easy. Some departments resented her, saw her as an enemy, but others welcomed the change, recognized that reform protected good cops as much as it exposed bad ones. Maya Reeves graduated nursing school and joined Evelyn's hospital. They worked side by side in the ICU, two people who'd survived the same trauma and turned it into purpose. Dennis Keller organized a veterans group focused on civil rights advocacy, connecting former military with communities facing police misconduct. Evelyn spoke at their first meeting, and the room gave her a standing ovation. She still had nightmares sometimes, still flinched at loud noises, still carried the weight of everything that had happened. But she also carried something else, the knowledge that standing up had mattered, that refusing to accept injustice had created change. 1 year after the trial, Evelyn received an invitation to speak at a national conference on police accountability. She stood at the podium, looking out at hundreds of faces, activists, attorneys, officers, victims. "A year ago," she began, "I was stopped in a parking lot for helping someone. What should have been a routine interaction became a nightmare because one officer decided I was guilty before asking questions. And when I refused to accept that treatment, he escalated. He searched my car without cause. He humiliated me publicly. He tried to destroy my credibility." She paused, letting the words settle. "But here's what he didn't count on. He didn't count on me fighting back. He didn't count on other people standing with me. He didn't count on a system that, however slowly, however imperfectly, still had mechanisms for accountability." Another pause. "I'm not a hero. I'm someone who got tired of being treated like a suspect for doing the right thing. And I'm not unique. There are thousands of people, millions,
who faced similar situations and didn't have the resources, the platform, or the support to fight back. She looked directly at the camera recording the speech, knowing this would be shared online, knowing people were watching.
So here's what I want you to take from this. When you see injustice, document it. When you face abuse of power, report it. When the system fails you, don't give up on making it better. Because change doesn't happen because people in authority suddenly decide to do the right thing. It happens because ordinary people refuse to accept that things can't improve. The room erupted in applause. Evelyn stepped down from the podium and walked into the audience, where real conversations happened, where connections were made, where the hard work of reform continued. She thought about Cole, locked in a federal prison, facing every day what he'd inflicted on others. She thought about Daniels, disgraced and isolated, his career destroyed by his own choices. She thought about Kowalski, awaiting trial, knowing his network had crumbled. And she thought about the 43 names in Cole's notebook, people who'd been targeted, violated, dismissed. Many had come forward now, their stories adding to the wave of accountability sweeping through law enforcement. Evelyn had never wanted to be the face of a movement, had never sought attention or acclaim, but she'd learned something important. Sometimes the quietest people, the ones who just want to do their jobs, help others, live their lives, become the loudest voices for change simply by refusing to be silent. Later that evening, Evelyn sat in a coffee shop near her apartment, reviewing notes for a training she'd be leading the next week. A young woman approached her table hesitantly. "Excuse me, are you Evelyn Carter?" Evelyn looked up. "Yes? I saw your speech online. I'm a nursing student, and last month a security guard at my clinical site accused me of stealing medications. I didn't, but everyone believed him because he's been there for years and I'm new." The woman's voice shook slightly. "I filed a complaint, but I'm scared nothing will happen." Evelyn gestured to the empty chair. "Sit down." The woman sat. "What's your name?" "Jessica." "Jessica, here's what you need to know. Filing the complaint was the right thing to do. It's also just the first step. You're going to need documentation, every interaction, every witness, every piece of evidence that supports your account. And you're going to need support, people who believe you, who'll stand with you when it gets hard. Do you think it will work? I don't know. But I know if you don't fight, nothing changes. And the next person he accuses won't even try because they'll think the system doesn't care." Jessica nodded slowly. "How did you stay strong through all of it?" Evelyn thought about the question, about the night she'd barely slept, the moment she'd questioned whether it was worth it, the time she'd wanted to just walk away.
"I didn't always feel strong," she admitted, "but I remembered that I'd survived worse, and that giving up would mean everything I'd been through was for nothing. Did it get easier? No, but it got clearer, and that was enough." Jessica thanked her and left, but Evelyn knew that conversation would stay with her, would become part of her own story, her own fight.
That was how change happened. Not in grand gestures or sweeping reforms, but in small moments. One person helping another. One story inspiring the next. One act of courage creating space for someone else's. Evelyn packed up her notes and walked home through the Denver evening. The city lights reflected off the mountains in the distance, and for the first time in over a year, she felt something close to peace. Not because everything was resolved, not because the system was fixed, but because she'd proven something important to herself and to everyone watching. That power without accountability was just tyranny with a badge. That silence in the face of injustice was complicity. And that ordinary people, when pushed far enough, could move mountains. She'd been underestimated, dismissed, targeted, and threatened, but she was still standing. And that, more than any verdict or settlement, was the victory that mattered most.